That was kind of quiet, and I'm not used to that. You know what I mean? Like, I live in a heavily populated area, so when it's quiet, people get robbed. You know what I mean? So, so this next poem, right? So short story, right? People always ask how I got started in poetry. So basically, I was a senior in high school. We're given the assignment to write a poem, bring it back the next day, you get full credit, right? So I wrote this poem about a girl that I had a crush on. Her name was Rochelle Moss. And I wrote this poem, I brought it back, right? And me and my friend Samantha, we had gotten to the classroom before everybody else did. And so she's like, hey, let me read your poem. So I give it to her, she reads it. She's like, wow, like, this is really good. And the rest of the class files in, we go through the entire lesson, and before we leave, the teacher asks if anybody wants to read their poems out loud before we turn them in, right? So Samantha, she's like, hey, you should read your poem. And I was like, no. And she's like, no, you should read your poem. I said, no. We kind of went back and forth, and she was like, well, what if I read it for you, right? So I was like, okay, cool, you can do that. So she gets up, and she's like, hey, class, this is Rudy's poem. And I was like, that is not what we discussed, right? So she reads the poem, and the class claps, and people walk up to me afterwards. They're like, yeah, I really like that. And then my teacher, she gave me a list of other poets to look up. And then one day I randomly stumbled across an episode of HBO Deaf Poetry. How many people have ever seen Deaf Poetry? Yeah. So we got a couple. So those who are familiar with it, it was an HBO series where they had poets from all across the country. And I saw that, and I fell in love with it. So I started writing more, and then my friends, they convinced me to go to an open mic, because I'd never been to one before. And I was like, yeah, I'll go, but I don't want to perform, right? So we get there, we're chilling. In the middle of the show, the host, he gets up, and he's like, calling people who are coming up next and whatnot. And he's like, next on the stage, we got Rudy Francisco. And I was like, yo, that's crazy. There's another Rudy Francisco. Like, what are the odds, right? And they were like, so we signed you up. And I was like, so this friendship is over, right? They were like, but you still got to go up and perform. And at the time, I only had one poem, right? And it was the first poem that I had ever written. And to this day, like, I still do it sometimes, because it was like the first one, so it's kind of like having your first child, you know what I mean? So, can I do that poem? Is that all right?
Yeah.
I said, can I do that poem? Is that all right?
Yeah.
There we go. I want to write a poem, but I wanted to say what you're thinking. I want to patch up the holes when your boat starts sinking. I want to write that one-of-a-kind poem, that free your mind poem, that I like how you made that rhyme poem, that I like that last line poem, that can I hear that one more time, that is, if you don't mind. Poem. I want to write that she's kind of fine poem, that I wish she was mine poem, that I want to ask her out, but I'm on my last dime poem, that what should I do, please God, give me a sign poem. I want to write that so heartfelt, I think I know him poem, that this is so amazing, I got to go find all my friends so I can show them. Poem. I want to write about everything that I've ever wanted to be. I want to write a poem so beautiful that my parents might actually start to agree. I want to write about you, about me, about us, about everything from cars and trains to riding the bus to betrayal and trust, the mistakes and heartaches. I want to talk about when I first learned to drive and I was so scared to let my foot off of the brakes. I want to talk about battles, about wars, about victories and losses, about ethnic cleansing, genocide, and laws penetrated by burning crosses and burnt down churches. I want to write 2 poems for everyone who's ever been told they were worthless. All my metaphors and similes to part oceans, rivers, and seas. I want to write love poems so sweet the ink on the paper attracts honeybees. I want to speak the unspoken. I want to fix everything in our world that's broken. I want to be the one that performs the Heimlich maneuver as soon as our society starts choking. I want my words of inspiration to inspire somebody else to be inspirational. I want the motivation in my voice to motivate somebody else to be motivational. I want my phrases to be published, documented, and quoted. I want people to recite my work 10 years from now and have critics say that was cool, but it wasn't nearly as good as he first wrote it. You see, I want husbands to thank my poems for the heart that they stole. And I know that this is just some shameless attempt to immortalize my soul, but honestly, I don't want to be forgotten. You see, I don't need fortune. I really don't need fame. I just want people to know what I stood for and why I came. I refuse to die. A mere occupant of the earth, a John Doe, another faceless man out there with no name. I refuse to be just another man. I want to walk for centuries, leave my footprints in the sand for the world to see, and I want to be cremated into ashes of rhymes and poetry. I'm just feeling like one day they're going to love me. I don't share my emotions too often. But poetry, the poetry will allow me to die with my heart on my sleeve. They never saw me coming, but I'll make sure they grieve when I leave. Thank you.